a Culture Community logo. Drink it in. Okay, it's 8:45. Hope you drank it in. All right, so welcome everyone to this month's Culture Community. This is our second month doing it virtually. And I'm sure all of you are very used to virtual things at this point, but thank you all for being here, especially those of you who are here for the first time. We're really excited to have you. Okay. So a little bit about who we are. We are a group of people who are passionate about being great leaders, intentionally building great cultures, and we are super passionate about doing it together. So we are a community. I always like to say we're not big on wheels. We don't like spinning our wheels for too long, and we don't like reinventing them. So we come together as a community to really learn from each other and grow. So we've intentionally created this as a space to learn, develop, and grow, to connect with each other, to be inspired and activated to go make positive change in the world. Because sitting here together, taking in the content is only one piece of it. We need to take that content, absorb it, and then go and actually take action to actually make positive change in this world. We usually meet at Dream Bank, and we are so thankful for them to sponsor us and to allow us to use their space. However, because of the way the world is, we are meeting virtually right now. But once we are able to go back to Dream Bank, we are going to be live streaming all of our events. So that's really exciting to be able to come to see us physically in person, or to be able to do it from the comfort of your own home. So our next event is on May 14th. We are having the amazing Ashley Quinto Powell. If you have not seen her speak, oh my gosh, she is just amazing. So she's going to be talking to us about empowering the parents on your team. And so that is May 14th. So make sure you go to our website and RSVP for that. We are currently we're going to send out Zoom links for this event. And if things change and we're able to meet in person, that'll be great. But otherwise, we'll meet via Zoom. So every month we get together, we cover topics that help us to become better leaders and to build better cultures. And we're always looking for new speakers, creative topics, all of that stuff. So if you're interested in speaking, please let me know, or you can go to our website and fill out an application. And it's culture.community. And our sponsors, thank you to the Perk and also to Dream Bank. They've been so amazing and wonderful for us. And today we are talking about emotional wellness in the workplace. And I just want to thank everyone who voted. We actually crowdsourced this topic this month because of just all the changes and things going on. We really wanted to host a discussion on something that was really relevant for what people were needing some information on. So we are talking about emotional wellness in the workplace, and we are going to be co-presenting. Steph and I are going to be doing it together, which is very exciting. So yay. Let's jump in. So a little bit about us, about Steph and I, and what we're going to be doing today. Hello, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Leah Rowe. I am a CPA. I'm a life and business coach. I'm an organizational culture consultant, and I am a remote work expert. So my background is actually in building, developing, and scaling remote teams and cultures. So I've been doing a lot of work with individuals and organizations at this time. Also working with companies right now on emotional wellness in the workplace, because it is so important. And a lot of the work that I do as a life coach is working with individuals on their emotional wellness and health as well. So that's where the emotional wellness piece of my background ties in. This is Steph. You can see her on the video. Hi, Steph. She's the director of operations here at the Perk. She's a culture coach, and she is also a remote work expert. We have built the Perk as a remote first company, so she has been working remotely since she joined us. So she's real good at it. Okay, so we're gonna talk. Steph and I are gonna present for, I don't even know how many minutes that is, until 9:20, approximately until 9:20. Then for 9:20 to 9:30, we're gonna do Q&A / have a discussion. I really wanna hear from you questions that you have, but also things that you're dealing with in your current situation or at your company that we can help you tackle. Then 9:30 to 9:45 is optional. It's continued discussion, so we'll keep the discussion going. If you're able to stay on, great. If you have to drop off to get to work or homeschool your children or anything else that we're all dealing with right now, please feel free to do so. Okay, so I'm a big Simon Sinek fan, as many of you know. So I always like to start with why. So why are we here together today? We are here together because we are not in a normal work from home situation. Many people, many of you included, are working remotely for the very first time ever, or there are a lot of you who are working remote only for the first time. So even if you've dabbled in remote work, worked remotely from home on Fridays or here and there, it's very different when you're completely remote, completely working from your home all the time. Also, it was really, really abrupt. When I work with organizations to become different forms of remote, there's a lot that we do before we actually execute. A lot of planning, a lot of strategizing, a lot of communication with staff, a lot of trial and error before we fully go remote. However, companies didn't have that luxury this time around because of how quickly everything happened. So it was a lot of change, a lot all at once for everyone. Also, we're not a normal work from home situation because there's a lot of added stress, anxiety, and worry in the world right now. I keep telling people it's so amazing in a way how we're all united right now. Like, this is a situation, this is an experience that we are all living through together. There's no one right way to do it. There's no blueprint. We're navigating uncharted territory, but we're all united by our challenges right now. The thing that we all have in common is that our lives have been disrupted in some way. We have challenges. A lot of us are working with our kids at home. That is not a normal work from home situation. When I work with companies on becoming remote, that's actually something we talk about in the hiring process with employees, is just because you're working from home, this is not a substitute for childcare. However, there's no choice right now. So a lot of us are working at home with our kids, which is a lot. A lot of people are working at home right now and their significant other, their friends and family are being laid off. It's a lot. People are working at home and their significant others or family members are essential workers. That's a whole nother layer of added stress when you have a family member or your husband or wife or girlfriend or boyfriend going into the health systems and the hospitals every day. Also, a lot of us are dealing with, we have friends and family that are becoming sick. So we are truly in an unprecedented time right now. And so it really requires us to shift our mindsets and also our behaviors in order to be as well as possible. During times of uncertainty, there is an increase in worry and stress, excuse me. And we are in a time of a lot of uncertainty. So there's a huge increase in worry and stress right now, which is why emotional wellness is so important. And that's really what we're here to talk about today, is emotional wellness. Our emotional health is actually affected by individual factors, our experiences, our social interactions, the work environment, and cultural norms, all of which have been completely disrupted in the past few months. So it's more important than ever right now that we're talking about our emotional health, that we're understanding it, that we're taking care of ourselves, and that we're helping others to have positive emotional health right now. So when I say emotional wellness, what exactly am I talking about? So this is a definition from the National Center for Emotional Wellness, which is a pretty legit resource when you're talking about emotional wellness. So their definition is, it is an awareness, an understanding, and acceptance of your emotions and your ability to manage effectively through challenges and change. So it is your ability to emotionally cope with challenges in a healthy and productive way. All of us have so many new challenges that we're facing right now. And so it's so important for us to be able to emotionally cope with them in a healthy and productive way. I want to talk about some traits of an emotionally healthy individual. So an emotionally healthy individual is resilient. So you're able to cope with optimal, sorry, I get real excited about this topic and then I just flub all my words. So you're able to cope with optimal levels of stress and conflict. As an emotionally healthy individual, you are self-aware and you accept a wide range of feelings in self and others. You are tolerant of ambiguity, flexibility, and you're adaptable to change. And as an emotionally healthy individual, you maintain a positive approach to life that is rooted in your sense of personal responsibility for and your ability to manage your life in personally fulfilling ways. So if you have positive emotional wellness, you have resiliency, you have self-awareness, you're tolerant of ambiguity and change, and you maintain a positive approach to life. So the bottom line for emotional wellness in the workplace, if you are an emotionally well individual and employee, you are able to sustain a desirable level of functioning in the workplace, and you're able to remain fully engaged in work in the midst of various pressures, stressors, and changes. So that's what emotional wellness is. I want to turn it over to Steph right now to talk about why emotional wellness is so important in the workplace.
Yeah, so let's dive into, just like Leah said, why it's important, right? So first we'll just start with some attributes of emotionally well employees. So they have sustained engagement and motivation across the board. They have intellectual curiosity and creativity, so they're able to innovate. They have strong collaboration skills. They work well in a team, and they have the ability to tolerate ambiguity and to adapt to change, just like Leah was saying before, which is obviously so important right now. And then there was a nice long 50-page report that we read from the National Business Group on health. And there were a lot of good nuggets in there. But this was just a really good quote that we wanted to pull out and talk to you guys about. And so it just says, the ability of a company to excel in the marketplace, to quickly adapt to change, or to be innovative requires its people to be physically, mentally, and emotionally healthy, right? And so obviously companies are needing to quickly adapt right now because everything is changing so quickly. And we found that companies are usually pretty comfortable talking about physical health, right? But emotional health is something that isn't really talked about that much in the workplace. And so that's just where the adapt and the change is going to have to come in from companies right now. And then we have this really awesome graphic. So we just thought this was a good way for you to be able to visually see why emotional wellness is so important in the workplace. And really, it's these 4 components, and they're all necessary for it to work, right? If you don't have one of them, the circle does not go on. So it all starts with your people. So your people are critical to the success of your company. And then their emotions obviously are essential attribute. So that's a central attribute of all employees. So in addition to physical and mental health, emotional health is necessary for employees to maintain engagement and to function. And then healthy employees are essential to sustain corporate growth, right? And then it all just keeps going in a circle. So this is just a good visual to see why emotional wellness is so important in the workplace right now. And then we also just wanted to bring up, just in talking with companies, some things that we have heard from some companies, like this isn't new. We have been remote. We are a remote company. And emotional wellness is still really important to talk about in these companies because the remote that we're doing right now, like Leah talked about, is way different than the normal remote, right? So Leah and I, like she said, we're remote employees, we're remote first, but this is not how I have been working for the PERC before, right? It's not being able to not leave my house, not being able to see them at all. So this is way different. So still talking about emotional wellness in a workplace where maybe you already were remote, still very important. People might be saying, things are going well so far. Again, emotional wellness still important to talk about in those workplaces because what people are saying and how they're feeling might be 2 different realities right now. Maybe nobody's asked how they're feeling. Maybe they're not feeling safe to be able to share how they're feeling, right? So still bringing up emotional wellness in those workplaces where everything seems to be going okay and going well right now is important. Basically, what we're trying to say is that emotional wellness is important for every single workplace right now. And then we also just want to note, so we know why, we know what it is, how do we do it, right? So that's what we're gonna move into next is on these tips of how to improve your emotional health in the workplace. But we just wanna note that to achieve a meaningful culture of health, there's a lot that goes into it, right? So there's company policies, there's business practices, communication methods, and those must all support positive emotional health. So achieving emotionally healthy employees requires that organizational leadership and a corporate culture that values the emotional health of its employees. So basically it's a process and it's something that takes time. And like Leah said before, we were kind of just all thrown into this. This was very abrupt. So emotional wellness is also something that usually takes time. It's not something that you snap your fingers and it just happens. So just kind of know that this is usually a process. It does usually take time. But when it comes to the emotional health culture of your company, you probably already have one, whether you know it or not. It's like unwritten rules or norms on what emotions to share, how to share those emotions, how often you should be sharing them, when you share your emotions, and why it's important to share those emotions. So you probably already have that, and that's likely changed dramatically in the last month because everything has changed dramatically in the last month. So these tips that we're going to give you, when we're talking about emotional health, it's just really to help yourself and your team have positive emotional health right now, regardless of your company's focus on emotional health up until this point. So we're trying to give you actionable tips, actionable how-tos for just right now.
Awesome. Thanks, Steph. Yeah. Just to reiterate what Steph said, creating a culture of health and one focus on emotional health, it is a process. It can take a long time. And so when we were putting together this information, we really want to make sure that you have It doesn't matter if your company has never talked about emotional wellness or if your company's been working on it for years. These tips will help you to be successful right now, to help you have positive emotional wellness and also to help your team. So let's get into our 4 tips. First tip is connect and communicate. So daily virtual face-to-face social connection is crucial. So face-to-face connection, we as humans, we need that. But we're in a socially distant world right now. So we still need to have that face-to-face connection. Video software is amazing, but you need to turn your screens on because you need to be able to see each other. So we're recommending that every company have at least 2 touch points every day where you're physically seeing somebody else. You can have your whole company. If your company is smaller, you can break up into teams. And just to point out, we've been talking to organizations and some companies have been saying, oh, our people are doing great. They really don't need that physical, connection every day. We've been doing it once a week, but then you talk to the employees and they're really struggling. So don't assume because you don't need that face-to-face every day, because maybe you have, you're seeing your family or you're Zooming with your friends later. Don't assume that just because you're doing well, that everyone in your organization is doing well. So we're really recommending that every company meet twice a day, a 15-minute stand-up in the morning, just a time to get together, say good morning, how are you doing, what are you working on today, and then a 15-minute stand down in the evening. Those are kind of the bookends to start the day and end the day. And with the stand down, I'm not saying that you stop working after the stand down, because again, with people's kids at home and things like that, schedules have shifted. So people might still be working after that stand down, but it's just a really good time for teams to come together and to be able to see each other. Also, weekly one-on-ones between managers and direct reports. If you haven't been doing weekly one-on-ones before everything happened, I would start doing them. If you have been doing them, you need to keep doing them and don't cancel them. We talked to organizations and managers were canceling their one-on-ones because they wanted to be respectful of their employees' time and give them more time back in the day. And also they had other meetings they needed to attend. But when we talked to the employees, this was really negatively affecting the employees' mental health and emotional wellness, because they liked to have that structure. They liked that weekly check-in with their manager. It was this piece of normalcy and also a time for them to be able to talk to their manager and be heard. So it's really important that you keep these weekly one-on-ones between managers and direct reports, and that in addition to talking about work, you're asking questions about and assessing their emotional wellness. These questions do not have to be big, scary questions. They're questions like, how are you doing? How is your family? What do you need to feel calm or whole, or the way that you want to be feeling right now? And also asking the question, what are you worried about? This is something that Steph and I actually talked about. So I'm Steph's manager. So in our one-on-one a few weeks ago, I asked her, what are you worried about right now? And we had a great conversation. And I talked to her later. I said, Steph, how was that one-on-one for you? And she told me it was really great because nobody had asked her up until that point what she was worried about. And just because nobody's asking her or nobody's asking your team what they're worried about, it doesn't mean that their worries are going away. So for her, by being able to talk about it and get those worries out of her head, she was able to create space for herself so then she could focus on the things that she actually wanted to focus on. And also, like, as a manager, I can't fix her worries. I don't have the answers. I can't say, oh, Steph, don't worry about this pandemic. I'll fix it. Like, you don't have to have the answers, but just creating that safe space for your team to be able to talk about what they're worried about and what's on their mind is really important. Also, if these questions like, how are you, become repetitive or stale, as you'll notice, a lot of people will be like, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How are you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. Everything's good. Take it a level deeper. How are you doing today? Let's talk about right now. So if you ask your team, how are you doing? They're like, I'm good. Stay with it. Are you? How are you doing today? What's a new feeling you're experiencing right now? Just trying to take it a level deeper to really see how are people doing and make sure that they're not just glossing over everything and saying, I'm good, and trying to move on. Vague questions might not work for everyone right now, and that is totally okay. Also, communication, transparent communication from the top, from leadership is really, really important right now. Keeping employees informed of your business direction, such as financial viability or major organizational changes, leaves less room for uncertainty. Remember, we talked about in the beginning, times of uncertainty lead to an increase in stress, anxiety, and worry. So if you can leave less room for uncertainty, then that will be less stress on your employees. So making sure that you're having transparent communication from the top is so important. I'm recommending companies right now do this twice a week. So having leadership communicate to the team twice a week. I've also been, as I've been working with organizations, been learning that people are really wanting to know when they're going to hear from the top. So if you're doing a video call with leadership on Monday and then an email on Thursday, make it clear of when people are going to hear from leadership, because they want to know that structure. They want to be able to know when they're going to hear from them. And when you set those expectations, make sure you follow through. So if you say you're going to get an email every Thursday from our CEO, make sure that they're getting an email every Thursday from their CEO. And also really promoting two-way communication right now is important. Encouraging and allowing employees to inquire about the company's direction and management's worries is really helpful for their emotional wellness. So encourage them, ask questions, have leadership or managers talk about what they're worried about, and create this space for there to be a two-way communication. And again, you are not required to have all the answers, but you do have a responsibility to create a safe, non-judgmental space, to ask your team how they're doing, to listen, to value their input, to take action when applicable, and ensure that your team feels safe, both physically and psychologically. Okay, so first tip, connect and communicate. Second tip for having positive emotional wellness is to stay positive. And I want to give 2 different ways for you to stay positive right now. The first is to shift your perspective. So when I talk about shifting your perspective, what I mean is choosing the way in which you want to look at a situation. Situations and experiences that we have can affect our thoughts, how we think. But your thoughts, you can choose, you have the choice to choose how you think about something. And the way that you think about something is going to drive how you feel about it. How you feel about it is going to drive the action that you take. So shifting your perspective is looking at all the million ways in which you could look at a situation and choosing which thought is going to put you in the best position for how you want to feel and the way you want to act. So a great exercise to do this, to help you with shifting your perspective, is called Racket and Reframe. So I want you to take a piece of paper, a physical piece of paper, and you write down all the racket that's going on in your brain, all the things you're telling yourself, all your worries, all your anxieties, all the things that are going on that are just taking up brain space. Then you reframe it. So you write down how you want to choose to look at the situation right now. An example that I'm seeing a lot of right now is the racket in people's brains is, I am a failure. I'm a terrible homeschool teacher. I'm not being a very good parent because the time spent with my kids doesn't feel intentional. I feel like I'm being a bad mom, and I'm not as productive as I used to be. So I'm a really bad employee. At the end of the day, I failed it all. But that's not true. Reframe it. This is an unprecedented time, and I'm doing a great job. So the racket in my brain, I'm a failure. No, that's not true. This is an unprecedented time, and I'm doing a great job. Also, something with Racket and Reframe I want to say too is that it's not blatantly lying. So it doesn't have to say, the racket is like, I don't feel good today, and the reframe is, I feel amazing today. No, the racket could be, I don't feel good today, and the reframe could be, it's a tough time, but I'm going to be okay. So it can be just shifting that perspective slightly. And also, like the not true column, I do want to note, I have a lot of clients who like to call this their BS column. So if you feel better doing your racket and then saying BS before your reframe, do that as well. I like the BS column. Okay, so that's shifting your perspective. The next way to stay positive right now is to practice gratitude and JOMO. So research, I'm sure a lot of you have seen the research on gratitude because it's everywhere, but research on gratitude has shown that it just might be the single most powerful method for increasing our well-being. And I put this graphic in here, I didn't make it, just to show like all this research that's out there, this is all the benefits of gratitude. Emotionally, socially, career-wise, health-wise, personality-wise, it's amazing. There is so much positive benefits that comes from practicing gratitude. It is insane. And also, practicing gratitude is not just being grateful for the quote unquote good things in your life. It's also about being grateful for the not so great things because you see them as an opportunity to learn and grow. So there was an awesome article in Thrive Global, I love it, And the author, she put this statement in here. I'm grateful that the COVID-19 crisis is an opportunity to blank, because nobody's going to say the COVID-19 crisis is a good thing, but we can find gratitude in this time. So she reflected on this question or this statement, and she found she's grateful that the COVID-19 crisis is an opportunity to gain clarity, to get creative and motivated, to discover our own inner strengths and value, and to remember that we are all connected. So I want you to practice gratitude. I want you to reflect on that question. I'm grateful that the COVID-19 crisis is an opportunity to blank. Focus on that. What is it an opportunity for you to do, or to be, or to think, or to feel? I want you to write down 3 things that you're grateful for each day. It does not have to be paragraphs. It could be literal words. Most of my days, now and before now, I'm grateful for coffee. That's usually one of the first things I write in the morning. So it doesn't have to be long. It can be 3 words. I use the 5-minute journal, and this is actually in there every day. You start out the day and write 3 things that you're grateful for. But you can write it on any piece of paper. You can type it, whatever you'd like to do. Also, I want you to practice JOMO. JOMO is the opposite of FOMO. So FOMO is the fear of missing out. JOMO is the joy of missing out. Focus on the things that you're happy to be missing out on right now. For example, real pants. We talked about that at the beginning during our social time. You can be happy that you're missing out on demanding social activities. You can find joy in the fact that you don't have to commute right now. Somebody said earlier, they don't take as much time to get ready. There's joy in that you have less time. You don't have to take so much time to get ready every day right now. And I want you to not feel guilty about this. A lot of my clients have been saying, I'm finding a lot of joy right now. I'm practicing gratitude, but that makes me feel like I'm a bad person because of everything that's going on. Finding silver linings, finding joy, practicing gratitude during rough times does not make you a bad person. It is actually a sign of strong emotional health. So in terms of practicing gratitude and JOMO in the workplace, my suggestions are talk openly about it. Talk about what you're grateful for. Talk about JOMO. If you have Slack, have a gratitude or JOMO Slack channel. Share those things. Post funny memes. There's some really good memes about JOMO. Educate your team on the benefits of gratitude and the ease of doing it. Again, there is so much scientific evidence backing gratitude and the way it actually changes our brains. You can just go to Google and put science behind gratitude, find a bunch of articles, and just talk about it with your team, educate them, and how easy it is to do. And also, I think something that I would love all companies to take time to do right now is to reflect on this statement together. I'm grateful that the COVID-19 crisis is an opportunity for our business to take care of our clients in a different way, to show that our culture is one in which we care about our employees. What are you grateful that this crisis is allowing your business the opportunity to do? So stay positive, shift your perspective, practice gratitude and JOMO. And now Steph is going to talk to us about being active.
Yeah. So we're going to dive into being active. So like we talked about earlier, physical health affects our emotional health, right? So we need to focus on both our physical and our emotional well-being right now. And for that, we're just suggesting exercise daily. And that doesn't have to be like an hour-long run, right? It can be like 30 minutes. It can be 15 minutes. Anything is better than nothing right now. Talk about it with your team. Try and do it as a group. There are so many people that are doing like Zoom workouts together over lunchtime yoga, and get creative, have fun with it, right? There's so much free content out there right now with Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest. There's so much out there, and you don't have to have an at-home gym. There's like just so many resources right now for being active. And like, for example, for myself, like I used to go to boutique fitness studios a lot. So like Orange Theory, Cycle Bar, I was doing that like 5 times a week. And so instead of just not being able to work out at all because those are closed right now, unfortunately, and I can't step foot in them, I'm just getting creative. I'm running outside. I used to hate running outside, but now I love it apparently. And I'm doing at-home workouts. And so it's just getting creative. Another thing that you could do is walk and talk meetings. So this is something, obviously we've talked about the importance of social connection and being on video and having those video calls. But if you've been on like 5 Zoom calls that day, you feel like your cup is full with your social interaction and you want to get outside, or you want to hop on your treadmill and you want to have a walk and talk meeting. It's just doing it on the phone. And if it's a meeting where you don't need to take notes, or, you know, you obviously don't have to share your screen. And obviously with a walk and talk meeting, you're going to want to check with your other person that you're meeting with, because maybe you've had 5 Zoom calls and Zoom meetings already today, so you feel good, but maybe you were going to be the only person that they were going to see today. So still make sure that, you know, that they're okay with doing a walk and talk meeting, but it's a good way just to get some exercise, and just a little bit of exercise in your day. And then getting outside, getting fresh air, getting some sunshine when the weather permits. It's a really good way to just boost your emotional well-being right now. And then our last tips go around taking breaks and setting boundaries. So taking breaks are just really, really important right now. You and your team, everybody, you all need breaks. You all need rest. When we've been talking to companies though, they have just been saying that, you know, the employees, they just don't really know what the expectation is in this new normal, right? So what we're suggesting then is just have a discussion with your team. And in that, if you are leading that team, encourage rest to prevent burnout and keep your team healthy. And a good way to do this is actually create something that's called an "it's okay to" list. And what you're doing with that list is you're normalizing this new reality, and you're giving your team explicit permissions, because right now they're just really not sure what they're allowed to be doing. So examples that could be on your "it's okay to" list: it's okay to have flexible work hours, right? If they're taking care of a family member, they have kids at home, maybe they're not working within that 9 to 5 usual time that you're used to. So it's okay to have flexible work hours, or it's okay to take breaks, or it's okay to not respond right away on Slack, right? These should be very personalized to your team. So having this discussion and just creating this "it's okay to" list together is going to help a lot with the emotional wellness of everybody on your team. So the last piece here is just talking about what you're doing. If you're a leader, to your team. If you're not a leader, just talking with your coworkers about it, about what you're doing, and when you're what you're doing to prevent burnout, when you're doing it, just kind of sharing like your tips, sharing your struggles, just talking about it and normalizing it is what is going to help with breaks right now. And then setting boundaries. I just want to point out that it's important right now to separate work and home, since the lines are blurring so much. So I just suggest having an end of the workday ritual. It's finding a way to allow your brain to shut down from the day or from your workday and kind of shift into, okay, now we're just at home. You used to do this with your commute, like from your office, right? Whether you were walking or driving, riding your bike, riding the bus, whatever. You had a way for your brain to shut down. So that might be a short walk, or you're listening to a podcast, or you hop on a phone with a friend, but just have some way to signal to your brain that your workday is done. And then to go off of that too, having an end of the work week ritual. So I don't remember what day of the week it is anymore, like ever. So your brain probably doesn't realize it when it's Friday. So just a way to signify that your work week is over. So an example for this might be that Friday night is your takeout night, and that's just signifying that you've made it through the week and now you have 2 days of rest. Setting those boundaries is just really going to help.
Awesome.
So those are our tips.
Dan and I are doing fish fry Fridays.
Nice.
That signals to our brain that it's Friday. So we're eating a bunch of fried food. All right. I want to point out everyone's situation is so completely unique right now. We talked about in the beginning, the way that we're all united is our lives have all been disrupted in some way, and we're all dealing with our own challenges, but everyone's challenge is completely unique, and we need to accept and acknowledge that. In a roundtable I was a part of last week, a company talked about how they were talking to each of their individual employees and asking, what support do you need? Because everyone's situation is so different. And I loved that. So you're not trying to generalize how to take care of everyone. You're talking to people individually to see what support do they specifically need right now. Also, co-ownership. You need to ask your team questions and listen and take action when needed. So take ownership over that, of being there to take care of your team, but also your team needs to co-own their well-being. They need to own that piece of it as well. So encourage them to communicate with you when something is working or when they need something, so that they know that they can trust you to check in on them, to see how they're doing, to talk with them, but you're trusting them to come to you too when they need something. So it's just this co-ownership over everyone's well-being. Also, consider surveying your team. A lot of companies are doing this right now, and I think it's really fantastic. Things are changing super rapidly, and so this will help keep a pulse on your team's emotional and overall well-being, and it'll provide clarity on what your team needs right now, because that might shift from what they needed last week or what they'll need a week from now. And it helps you to focus your time and resources accordingly on what your team actually needs. So just because you see this company over here was doing this, don't just copy and paste that onto your company. Maybe that's not what your team needs. Ask them what they need, give them what they need. And if you want, so we have been doing employee emotional wellness surveys and impact assessments for organizations. So if you want the questions that we've been asking on our surveys to those teams, you can go to our website, choosetheperk.com/impact, and we'll send you the questions that we've been asking people. So what did your company do to support employees during COVID-19? I am hoping that when this is done, and there's going to be a surge in hiring, the economy is going to come back, it's going to be great. I hope that all future candidates ask this question going forward at interviews. I think this would be a fantastic question to ask to really get to the culture and the character of a company during crisis. How your company handles emotional wellness around this pandemic is going to come up again. So really think about this. Put yourself in this perspective of 6 months from now, when we're hiring employees, they're going to ask us, what did you guys do to support your employees during COVID-19? And how do you want to answer that? I love that perspective. And remember, everyone, this is a totally unprecedented time. There is no playbook. There is no blueprint. We're all navigating uncharted territory. It's an unprecedented time, but you are doing a great job. You are all amazing. You're all killing it. And with that, I'm going to